Hi, welcome to a2zknowledge.com. So today we are going to discuss about how to install Apache Spark on Linux in standalone mode. So before getting into this video, I have shared all my big data related playlist in the description box. If you are interested, you please go ahead to my channel and have a look on those videos as well. And I have shared my LinkedIn and Instagram URL in the description box. If in case you want to connect me or you want to follow me, you can do via that. So today I'm going to show you how to install Apache Spark on Linux. So Apache Spark, not only Apache Spark, any big data component you go, it supports on all three leading platforms. Like you can install in Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. But in real time, predominantly we use Linux, and that's the reason today I'm going to show you how to install this on top of Linux. So the Linux flavor which I'm using is Ubuntu. So you can use Ubuntu or any Linux version that you use. In real time, people you go for CentOS, but Ubuntu is also fine. So the flavor of Linux, Apache Spark means the flavor of Spark which I'm going to install and show you today is Apache. So you can just go to Google and search for Apache Spark download. That will take you to spark.apache.org. The first link when you search, you will get this. So you can download any recent version or recent version -1. You can download and then you can have it in your machine. Now I'll show you how to install and what are all the prerequisite components need to be get installed before installing Spark. So everything I'll show you. So the very important thing for any big data component, we need Java. So you can install any Java greater than 1.7 version, greater than or equal to 1.7. So I'm having Java 8 here. So I have downloaded this and then I have downloaded Spark 2.4.6 with Hadoop compatibility. So today I'm going to show you how to install Spark on Linux in standalone. So standalone means people used to think it is single node. No, single node is different and standalone mode of installation is different. Standalone means it could be single node or multi-node. Standalone means you are installing only Apache Spark and you are not installing Apache Spark on top of any other big data technology. So I'm installing only Apache Spark in 3 nodes or 4 nodes or single node. That is standalone. Okay, so standalone single node cluster or standalone multi-node cluster. You can call it in that way, but standalone is not single node. I'm installing only Spark today, but in real time, Spark will be installed on top of Hadoop. So you will not see just Spark in any project, in any infrastructure. It will be sitting on top of Hadoop. But today I'm going to show you just Spark installation in single node. And the same can be done in multi-node even without Hadoop is also fine. You can still do it. But in my upcoming video, I'll show you how to install Spark on top of Hadoop. Then you may ask me a question. So in real time, Spark is going to sit on top of Hadoop. Then why we are just doing only Spark installation on top of Linux directly? For running programs and testing and for your Spark learning, it could be anything. It could be on top of Hadoop or just a standalone still file. Only when I use all the Hadoop related components and the resourcing matter means resourcing stuff of Hadoop, then I need this integration, or else I'm just going to do only with Spark, nothing else. Like for example, I'm not integrating my Spark with Hive or Spark with HDFS, then you can go ahead with just Spark. So when you are going to integrate with Hadoop components, then you need Spark with Hadoop, or else you can go ahead just with Linux. Installing Spark on top of Linux in a single node or multi-node is still fine. So I have a video prior to this called Spark Introduction. I recommend you to watch that video before you start this installation video. Fine. So now the very first thing you have to untar these Java and Spark. Either you can do with your GUI, like you can right click and there will be an option like extract here, or you can use Linux command. So in real time you will not have any GUIs. It will be like a remote machine, completely a black terminal. Everything needs to be in commands. So as much as possible, like you practice with commands, it will be very good. I recommend you to go in that way. So there is a command. So I'll give pwd. It's my present working directory. Home/test. Test is my username. So home/username is your home. Okay. So you can see my Java tar file is here. So to untar this, there is a command. Okay. So tar space hyphen ejectxvf and the file name. Okay, so I have already extracted this particular JDK file. You can see here there is a folder JDK 1.8.0 underscore 45. When you untar this file, this tar file, you will get a folder like this. Now, the next thing is you have to set this JDK in environmental path. So in Linux, unlike Windows, there is no option of like next, next, next and install. So it's all about configuration and setting up in the path. So that's what we call it as installation in Linux. So the environmental file, similar to Windows, when you install Java or Python, you used to set the environmental path, right? So similar to that we have in Linux as well, and in Ubuntu especially, the file name is called bash or c. If you want to see the file name, just give ls with -a. -a is an option to see all the hidden files, because we used to have some hidden files as well, but just ls will not show you that hidden files. The files and folders that starts with dot is hidden files and folders. So whereas you can see this bash or c is a hidden file. So this is a file in which we are going to set the environmental path and variable. Enter. So you have to come to the last line, just give shift G. It's a shortcut in Ubuntu for end of the line. Okay, so you can see here. So after you coming to the last line, you have to give all your variables and environmental variables and path and the end of the line in bash rc, and that is recommended. So the content what you see above, like these content will differ OS to OS. So don't worry about these content. Just come to the last line in your bash rc file, and then you have to enter, means you need this particular line. So anything that you install, like it could be Python or Java or Hadoop or Spark or any NoSQL database or any other component, when you install it, please it's a recommended way to set the home path in the bash rc file. But Java is highly recommended and it's mandatory, because when you start Spark search for Java, so you have to give the Java path in your bash rc file. And this is not only for Spark, even for Hadoop and even for any NoSQL database, Java is mandatory to set the path in the bash rc file. So this is the line Java home export. Java home is an environmental variable, and equal to the path is called environmental path. Home slash home slash test, and then the file name. So to get the path, you can just like Windows, just right click and go to properties. You will see the path and then the file name slash the file name. Now, once you're done with this line, go to the last line. So we need this export path. So this line should be always as a last line, and any home that you are setting here, we need to add it in the path variable. So export path equal to $java home. So this Java home, I'm referring with dollar, and then slash bin colon dollar path. So you are going to set the path only for Java, right? So I will remove this Hadoop home slash bin. Okay. So you have to give like this. So first you have to give export Java home this line, whatever your username and whatever the folder name of yours after extracting the JDK. And once you are done with this, next you have to give this line, export path $java home slash bin colon dollar path. So this dollar path should be the last word. So I have Hadoop home and HBase home. Yeah, if you want, you can add that as well. Like after bin colon, you can add next Hadoop home, and then slash bin colon hbase home with the dollar symbol. So you can do in that way. I will show you. You can see here. So you can see here. So after Java home slash bin colon dollar Hadoop home slash bin colon dollar path. So any home that you have, you can set before this dollar path. So once you have done this, you have to give escape colon WQ for save and quit. So you don't want to save, only quit, then escape colon Q exclamatory symbol. Okay, so now I'm not going to save anything. So escape colon Q exclamatory. And if you want to save it, so then you have to give escape colon WQ for save and quit. So once this is done, you have to execute this file. Whenever you do a changes in bash rc file, you have to execute. So dot bash rc, or you can give, there is a command called source space dot bash rc. Okay, so once this is done, now you have to untar the Spark folder. You have to extract this. Same command, tar space hyphen hxvf, and then the file name, or directly you can do extract here. So when you install Spark, you have to give Java home in two places. One is in bash rc, and one more time you have to add this export Java home inside Spark configuration folder. So in a config file, in Spark config file, now change your directory to Spark folder and then ls. So you can see a file folder called conf. So change your directory to conf, ls. So you can see a file spark env.sh template. So just rename the spark env.sh template to spark env.sh. It's very important step. Instead of renaming it directly, you can take a copy like this. Spark env is environmental file, template space spark env.sh. So if you do this, so you are taking a copy of spark env.sh template in the name of spark env.sh. So finally you need only spark env.sh file. Now you can open that file. It's an environmental file for Spark. So here you have to set, so if you are integrating Spark with Hadoop or any other technology, so you have to mention that home path here also. So here if you see, I'm giving Java home, export Java home/home/test and the JDK file name. So after, just add this and save your file. So you can do with GUI also. Directly you can open this conf and then you can rename this file or take a copy of this file and rename to spark env.sh and open this with gedit or text editor or whatever editor that you are seeing in your machine. So you can add it here. Save the file and then close it. Now, once you have done this, so what you can do is now in my previous video, Spark introduction video, I have explained that Spark has REPL. REPL means Spark has shell for you, in which developer will use to check one-liner or two-liner code testing. So we don't want to go for IDEs like Eclipse or IntelliJ just to test one line of code, creating a project, writing the code by creating a Scala or Java file, and then building that as a jar file. So that's not required. As a developer, I will just first test with the shell. So shell is for developer testing, right? So any technology that support shell, we call it as REPL. It supports REPL. REPL is nothing but shell. So here Spark supports two shell, Scala shell and Python shell, and Spark does not support Java shell. Since Spark supports Java, but Spark doesn't support Java shell. There is no shell for Java. So if you want to go for Scala shell, then you have to execute the command spark-shell. So spark-shell will take you to Scala shell. Okay, and similar to that, you have Python shell as well. I will show you that. Okay, now bin slash PySpark. So this will take you to Python shell where you can type all Python Spark APIs only. The Spark supported Python syntax, and this window is for Scala. You can see here Spark supported Scala APIs. You can type, you can test here, and here it's all about Python. Okay, and now if you noticed one thing, I haven't started Spark yet. Okay, so if you see in my previous video, I've told you that Spark, when you start Spark, there is two services, background services will be get started, and that is backbone for your Spark cluster. So either at a single node or multi-node, whenever you start Spark, there will be two daemons called master and worker. Okay, so master is like a master and worker is a slave node. Okay, so master will assign the task, slave will execute the task. So far we haven't started the Spark, as means we haven't started the Spark. So, but shell will still support you, but you can't do the real distributions and all. Only when you start it, the Spark as a cluster service, then you can do everything. So here I'm going to, I will show you how to start Spark, but still this particular installation is a single node. I haven't showed you multi-node installation, like one master, multiple slave, but I will be doing that later. Okay, in my upcoming videos, you can check that videos in my playlist. If the video is not there, please wait. I'll make a video and upload. So now let me open a terminal. I will change my directory to Spark, and now I will be starting my service. So for shell, it has bin slash, but for to start and stop the script, it is available under a folder called sbin, and the script name is start-all.sh. So when you start this, it will start master process and the worker process. So if you want to see the process running, what is the name of the process that is running in background, you can use a command called JPS. JPS is not Spark command or Hadoop command. JPS is a Java command which is called Java process status. So this JPS will list all Java process running in your machine, not only Spark and Hadoop. So even if some Java based program is running or game is running or Java based like some Eclipse or IDE, some IDs are opened. So it will show you all Java process. So now in my mission, like I'm having these many Java process are running. So in which you can see worker and then master. So this is your Spark daemon service. So like that in Hadoop, you might have heard about name node, resource manager, data node, node manager, secondary name node, and similarly in HBase you have HMaster and then Zookeeper quorum and then region server, and similar to that in Spark we have worker and master. So you can see there is few more Java related process running. So Spark submit. So we are running to shell, right? So for that we have once like we have Spark submit, and then this JPS itself a Java process. So it is also showing that JPS command as well. And today I'm not showing. I'm not gonna show you any programming stuff here. So one final step still we have. So Spark is ready or cluster mode. So now you can write programs in IDE. You can build that as a jar file. You can run it in cluster mode because your master and worker are running. And the last one is you have UI for Spark. So the port number localhost colon 8080. So this is your Spark master UI. So localhost 8080 is the web port number that you can go ahead and see your Spark master UI, and it shows there is one worker running, which is one slave, and this Spark UI where you can run all your programs, monitor your running programs or killed one or the fail status, success, everything, and you can see process by process, like what level of program got completed, what percentage of Spark jobs got completed. So everything. I don't want to explain you into technical terms, and in next video, upcoming videos, anyway, we are going to see all those stuff. I will explain you there, and you can see the Spark master URL. So Spark colon double slash and test virtual environment is my host name, and then 7077 is RPC port number of Spark. So if you take any technology, like even in Hadoop and Spark, we have two port numbers. One is web port numbers and one is RPC port number. Web port number is used to monitor the stuff in web, and RPC port number is used for process level communication. RPC full form remote procedure call. So for example, I want to write a program in Spark. So in when you write a program in your Spark, you have to say in which particular node and port number the master is running. So in that case, in the code, if you give localhost 8080, that's wrong. You cannot give web port number. So you have to give this particular URL in the program to say where the master is running, because the request goes to master, and then only master will decide in which particular node the work has to be get distributed. So we have RPC port number that has to be used in your program. So for example, you are writing a program to connect Spark with some UI or Spark with some NoSQL database, or only in Spark you want to do something. For anything that you want to do, to say where the master is running, you have to give this URL. So you don't want to mention how many workers and workers URL under that. Spark master will take care. Okay, so RPC is what you have to mention in your code, process level communication. So that's all for this video. So thanks for watching A to Z knowledge.com. If you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel, forward this to your friends and colleagues. So we do videos in two languages, English and Tamil, and please do share these videos in your LinkedIn. So thanks for watching A to Z knowledge.com.